Right, once again I'm with Prem Sikka. I haven't spoken to you for a while. We're at the latest, this year's 2017 AABA Tax Justice Network. Is it an AGM? What do you call it?
It's a conference.
A conference.
2-day conference.
A lot of excellent speakers as always. What did you make of it? You happy with it?
This excellent conference, it brings together people from all walks of life, students, doctoral students who are breaking new paths in research, practitioners like accountants we had here, tax lawyers, we had campaigners. So it's really good to see such a diverse community focused on very important issues of our times.
Are you still at university or are you finished there now?
I retired from 1st January this year. I'm now Emeritus Professor of Accounting.
Right. When I came to some of the very early meetings you had at the House of Commons, and it was much more for ordinary people there. I mean, I felt a little bit uncomfortable at this one. There was a sort of an academic element to it, which I understand. There's a lot of very academic research being done, which puts it out of the grasp of the ordinary Joe, if you're not careful. Don't you? I mean, obviously, I understand people want the structure. They want, it's academia. You're in a university setting. I understand you want all that, but the first meetings weren't like that.
Well, I think in early days, perhaps it was different, but obviously the world of business, law firms, accounting firms has become more sensitized to the kind of thing the tax justice community does. But you've got to bear in mind, we are engaged in sumo wrestling, literally, with the giants. We are the little people, they have the money and resources, and in some ways our only protection is research. Yeah. And therefore the research has to be done thoroughly. There are certain academic traditions. Yeah. That's not to say that those research papers can't be translated into some everyday language, and I think you will find some of them are translated into everyday language. Yeah. For example, on the TJN website there are blogs, and Richard Murphy, my good friend, runs excellent blogs as well.
He does.
So I think there are these things which can help people, but I think we increasingly need more robust and thorough research which can withstand particular challenges. And I think
obviously governments want to see things which have been properly researched. If they're going to influence governments at all, they want learned documents, don't they? And unless if you get a building collapses on fire, that influences government in a very dramatic way. But for the ordinary run-of-the-mill reforming by discussion, so if you're going to influence governments, you've got to do that, haven't you?
Well, I think even civil servants themselves are often not masters of all trades. They may understand some research and not others, but some of the research here presented by people, they are actually seeking their own social credentials of being a professor or a doctor, and inevitably they want to get that published in a scholarly journal. Yeah. So therefore there is some of that. Yeah. But I think there were excellent summaries here presented of papers in a non-technical language, and I think that is helpful. But I think there is also, the onus, as it were, on the audience as well to make a little bit of an effort to understand the complexities of the issues. And that is what we have.
Do you think perhaps it ought to either specialise in being an academic forum or develop something separate for the ordinary guys like me?
I think this kind of a workshop conference is a mixture. It is aimed at researchers, campaigners, practitioners. So it's bringing them all together. That is a strength. And I think if you say other audiences, so if you have a kind of a couple of hours meeting, say in Jersey, somebody comes along to talk, obviously they will know that the audience is very different, which may not be able to comment on, what exactly is data and how you'd look at the relationship between data. So they may well be,
for example,
those kind of gatherings will require a different form of communication.
The lawyer from the Isle of Man, I thought, was excellent, very well spoken, presented quite a dramatic analysis of what I don't think a lot of people realise. That's what the trusts were all about.
Yes.
Did it surprise you at all?
I was not at that particular maybe
Oh, you didn't see it?
presentation. I was out.
All right.
I had a number of other meetings happening on the
right.
side.
No, he was an excellent
But
speaker.
from what I heard, I thought all presenters were
Yeah.
excellent, regardless of whether they were technical or otherwise. It was thought-provoking, making us think about, for example, it's become common, and it's happening in Jersey. People talk about, we got to reveal beneficial ownership. Well, what does that actually mean? So I thought it was very thought-provoking, and the person who presented our session also went through all the rules and how they've been implemented by some countries or otherwise. Seemed to be a hell of a lot of creative compliance.
Obviously, I'm an ordinary Joe. I like the presentation on collecting information and featuring something as recently as the collapsed fire at the building at Kensington, and showing the links to havens, tax havens. And I thought that was very good, very topical, but very real. I understand that, because that's what Joe Public wants to know. It's all very well saying all these, but on the blacklist, these tax havens, but why are they on the blacklist? What are they actually doing? How do they do it?
Yes. But I mean, there are obviously country-wide specific issues. A lot of research is needed into particular political cultures, social cultures, kind of creative compliance, all sorts of things. But I think the good thing about this forum is people from different backgrounds come, and we need to expand the community. If we don't, we will have real problems, because, as I said, the only protection we have is research, analysis. We can't match the wealth of the big accounting firms, law firms, big corporations, their lobbying power.
That's my fear, unfortunately, that this group, however large it is always going to be outgunned, because they've got unlimited resources to counter you.
Well, I think you may well be right, but, as a wise man once said, if with all your might you don't reach the top of a mountain, that is not failure. No. The failure is that you never even dreamt of climbing that mountain. So that is the failure. Well, and remember, a lot of things that people started decades and generations ago subsequently have benefited us. So I think we owe something to our predecessors, our ancestors, to continue with our tradition. We may we may sow some seeds, watch the tree grow, but the fruit may not be born in our lifetime, but it certainly will one day.
Well, of course, a lot of the institutions and corporations themselves started small and grew, so if they can do it, in theory, this movement could do it, couldn't it?
Sure, but I mean, it's a continuous battle. There is no thing to say, we have reached the end and there is a kind of a final event. It's ongoing, because the way we live in society, there are ongoing issues. Absolutely. And so there are no permanent answers other than being eternally vigilant, eternally engaging with things. And that is all we're trying to do. So what people here, in a sense, are doing is questioning conventional corporate wisdom, tax haven wisdom, and saying,
my questioning of the didn't go down too well today. So they didn't like my non-academic approach to it, and
I think there were lots of non-academics here. Indeed, I spoke. There were some journalists here, some accountants here. I've spoken to some lawyers who are practitioners. But it's up to obviously the individual you ask the question, how he or she engages with you. But I think overall, from my viewpoint, it was an excellent event.
A lot of talk about politicians, but there weren't any here, were there?
Well, depends. No professional politicians, but otherwise every human being is a politician.
Yeah, but there always used to be a few at the House of Commons. Obviously, the House of Commons was where it was, so there was always a few politicians present. Yeah. But that, to me, is a shame, because obviously you need that conduit, don't you?
Well, I think those politicians who are interested in tax justice issues can contact selected individuals or the whole organizations to learn about things. But of course, it is also up to the individuals to contact policymakers, journalists and others to disseminate ideas and create public debates.
You're a conduit with the House of Commons, various committees and things. You meet people.
Yes.
Are they, obviously in the beginning it was always so frustrating. Well, why aren't they here? Why don't they show an interest?
Well, they don't need to be here because, in a sense, there are a multitude of things happening in life. Yeah. Of course, it's a matter of priorities. Just because they're not here doesn't mean they're not interested.
No.
Just because I'm not sitting in the House of Commons public gallery doesn't mean I'm not interested in knowing what Parliament does. So they may well be interested, and there'll be opportunities for them to possibly read or engage. And often, some of the research may well be at the edges of whatever the public policies issues are, but in time, research has capacity to frame these kind of debates and issues, and that is what is so good about this kind of conference.
I mean, I was told off today for talking too much about Jersey. Well, of course, I live there, and of course, it's a tax haven. Well, they say it's not a tax haven, of course.
Yes.
And I say there are other issues besides tax, but they're having an election, a general election, as they call it, in Jersey next year. Now, obviously, I presume the government won't change a great deal. So this is this great immovable object, isn't it? You can't reform it from within. It's very difficult to reform it from within.
Well, I
and
think
we look to outside organisations like this and to try and influence them.
Well, I think, up to a point, it's very difficult in the UK to get news about Jersey unless one logs on to the censored version or whatever is on the JEP website. It's very difficult, but I think ultimately it is up to the people to decide what kind of government they want, what kind of value system they want to privilege. Of course, there are obstacles. But, these obstacles, if we look at our history, obstacles about absence of women's rights, absence of trade unions, people have surmounted them. So I would say it is up to the people of Jersey. Of course, us on the outside can support in various ways, provide solidarity, ideas, analysis, debate. But I think ultimately it is down to the people. So if your political institutions are inappropriate, next response is why do you put up with them?
Well,
if you want to, the people could get together, completely boycott all elections. So when nobody votes, somebody has to wonder what on earth is going on. There is there is nothing to stop people in Jersey starting blog sites, using Twitter,
a few do, but
Facebook,
they fall by the wayside.
to air their concerns.
There are two remarkable things that have happened this week, as you're probably aware. They've had a huge child abuse report published, which is very damning of the institutions in Jersey. And of course, Brexit ongoing, which affects Jersey, Guernsey and the other islands, Gibraltar and beyond. So there is potentially a big discussion yet to take place. I don't know where it's going to take place on Brexit. I don't know what they're going to resolve. But again, that didn't feature a lot today, Brexit. I did get mentioned, but I thought there'd be more mention of Brexit because institutions could change dramatically, couldn't they?
Well, I think a lot of Brexit issues are very fuzzy anyway at the moment. It's never happened before. Nobody knows which way issues are going to go, so the issues are still developing. The government's playing it fairly close. All political parties are keeping their cards close to the chest. Possibly they don't quite know how they're going to emerge. So I'm not really surprised that Brexit is not here as a full topic. May well be next year, because then we do you actually discuss it with many people, Brexit? Do you actually discuss Not
this?
really. Even I was at an academic conference Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at Edge Hill University in Liverpool. They had a Brexit stream where academics are expressing their concerns, but they were much more concerned about why some issues have been raised about Brexit rather than what to do. And I think a lot of people will shy away from saying what to do, because first they will say, you've got to analyze what the issues are, how they came to be. So, for example, a lot of the issues about Brexit arise from globalization and the place of the UK within it. They arise from issues about neoliberalism, which privileges city, finance, shareholders, to say, well, what do we do about that? So in a sense, a lot of the Brexit referendum result, in a sense, was a backlash against globalization, to say, we the hell been left behind. We haven't really gained from it, or why am I being sacrificed at the altar of shareholder maximization of wealth? So in a sense, once you know, it's kind of layers. Once you know what the foundation is, then say, well, how does that manifest itself in various issues? But if you're looking at Brexit, I think it is in the UK's long-term interest to be a party to the CCCTB new corporation tax model being developed by the European Union, because that is a way of negating tax havens. But of course, it won't be that easy because individual nation states are engaged in a kind of a quest for competitive advantage. But sometimes they have to cooperate, and competitively, that is the best thing to do.
And you've got some key haven players, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg.
Well,
Monaco.
they will have to agree if they want to benefit from the European Union. So all I'm just saying is for Britain, in terms of Brexit, there is a merit in that.
Right.
There is no merit in racing to the bottom to become a tax haven, because what you then do is invite a competitive response, as we saw in one of the papers about Patent Box, and the result is by the time everybody's played their cards, you're back to where you were, but your tax revenues are down, which then poses the question, how is the social settlement to be funded? Are you going to raise taxes in other places? If so, who's going to pay? Or are people now required to accept a lower standard of social rights and welfare rights?
Quite a lot of different countries represented today, but I didn't hear anybody actually speaking in favour of tax havens. Now, that may sound like a silly thing, obviously, because this organisation appears to be against tax havens, but when it goes to the 26 or 27 nations in the European Union, they're going to presumably at some point be asked to vote on specific issues which will affect tax havens, aren't they?
I think EU probably will blacklist some tax havens,
Right.
but the question then is, what do you do, having blacklisted them? So if you would the EU really impose sanctions against the US for having Delaware and Wyoming and Nevada and New Jersey, which provide secrecy, no tax rates and things of that kind? It's very, very difficult for a federal system to take on individual states. Same would be for Canada, possibly Switzerland and many other countries. So therefore, I think what the EU would do is to seek ways of pushing up the costs of doing a business with them. Right. So for example, if the UK wants to give a, say, public contract to a company and it is based in Jersey, for example, you would find ways of increasing the cost. For example, say, okay, we want to see your accounts. You've got to make them public. We can, if Jersey is blacklisted, to say, well, any interest payment made to Jersey, somebody should deduct tax at source, and so on.
Quite on what basis, I don't know, but just to finish up, Jersey goes to the Isle of Man, I don't know about Gibraltar. They all see this Brexit as being a great opportunity for expansion. They can have a global market that they can go, sell their services.
Well, they may be able to, but I'm not sure what services they're going to sell and who exactly will be buying, because tax havens can only flourish if other states let them flourish. And of course other states let them flourish because it is partly a way for them to subsidize business sector, because if you give a grant or a subsidy, a check is written, it becomes visible, it can be chased by the government auditor, and questions can be asked, what did it buy us? On the other hand, if you tolerate a certain kind of tax avoidance, it remains invisible, you don't quite know who's doing it, hence the proposal here to say, let us have a look at the company corporate tax returns and related documents and so on. And that is, so things are developing, but these so-called tax havens could embrace a different kind of industries. Why can't Jersey just develop, let us say, a microchip industry?
They'd love that. They would love to do it, but
well, why can't they? If they have all this foreign investment flooding in,
that's right. And I do wonder,
as they claim, to say, well, why is it not being used productively?
They just had 93 billions in from some Saudi sources in a Japanese fund. What on earth it's for, nobody knows.
So I'm just saying there are possibilities, but I think what you do need to do is build up local opposition groups to scrutinize outcomes and policies, and that would be the way forward.
Perhaps you better come and live with us for a few years, Prem.
I doubt it. I've been to Jersey many times. I enjoyed the place. I love the place. There are lots of good people I know there, but living is something else. I don't think I would find the kind of politically oppressive environment very, very helpful there at all.
Okay, Prem. Anything else you want to tell me?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, and good to see you.